You're listening to the Super League pod coming up on this grand final edition of your favourite Rugby League podcast. We've got all your feedback and shout-outs, news from around the world of Rugby League as Four Nations squads are announced. We also cover that awkward moment in Wayne Bennett's house where he had to tell Darius Boyd that he is in fact not English. We'll be looking back at an entertaining grand final. We're going to be joined by a couple of very, very special guests. We might even fit in a bit of SLP recommend. So strap yourselves in for one of the last and the 121st times. This is your podcast, the Super League Pod. Okay everyone, welcome along to episode 121 of the Super League Pod. I sound like I'm laughing because sat opposite me is the grinningest man I've seen in quite some time. Normally we ask each other how each other's weeks have been, Mark, but I scarcely feel that there's any point in that.
Skip it, yeah.
This week. Absolutely. How does it feel to finally support a team on the Super League Pod that's lifted some silverware?
Well, we were under threat, weren't we? Because I'm pretty sure I made the declaration either at the start of this season or the end of last that I was giving up if we got to another grand final and lost it.
Well, there you go.
So the Super League, my presence on the Super League Pod will continue.
Yes, well, mine will do too. It's perhaps a good thing that your presence does continue because the Super League Pod condensed into 15 minutes of me guessing what's gone on every week probably wouldn't be quite as appealing. So, congratulations on the result. Obviously,
we'll talk about that. I don't feel like I had a big part to play, but I was there cheering them on.
You were there cheering on. You did all you could do. Away from Rugby League, how's your week been?
Standard
issue week.
The thing for me was all about the grand final, and on Saturday morning I woke up feeling so agitated because I hate that idea that you've got something to do later in the day, and your whole day's about what that's going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not comparing it to my wedding day, but the same sort of build up in terms of you wake up knowing, right, I've got to do this. This is the only thing that matters today, is getting to there for then and experiencing that. And that's how I felt on Saturday morning, and I was trying to sort out the tickets because one of the people couldn't come, so we had to try and find someone else to take it because I don't like tickets getting wasted, and a bit of that went on. So I had to drive around and drop off some tickets for different people, going in different cars. And I was starting to feel like, I need to get to the game.
I can see a little face. Starting to feel a bit stressed, will you, Mark?
Yeah, a bit tense, a bit agitated, like I say. But that's pretty everything else about my week. The Steelers had a good win yesterday on Sunday,
right?
So that was positive. And I think Frank Paul might be a Steelers fan or just wears Steelers gear because in that really badly dubbed Wigan Don't Stop Me Now video that's been doing the rounds on the internet.
Yeah, that's great work, that.
Frank Paul, I think, was wearing a Steelers top. I wasn't paying enough attention. I didn't want to watch it twice because,
once is enough.
Yeah.
Once is enough for a piece of art like that. You've got to absorb it in a want to.
But,
very good.
That's pretty much been it, really. What about you?
Steady away. Can't complain. Every weekend, yeah. So, what did we do? Saturday, bit of shopping. I took her to Smith's Toy Superstore to try and get some ideas for what she might want to ask Father Christmas for, and that backfired quite heavily on me. Not in terms of her being naughty or anything, but there's just a lot of stuff that I think if you take a 4-year-old to a toy shop and say, what do you think you'd like Father Christmas to bring, they'll basically walk up and down each aisle and go that.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of that, and I've actually ended up sat and I was getting her one big present after all that effort. So that was Saturday, and then on Sunday it was my grandmother's 86th birthday, and she shares a birthday with my dad. So we all went down to West Yorkshire and met with my grandma and had a lovely bit of cake and a bit of a meal. And we stopped in Ilkley, which is a lovely little town where one might go up on the moors without a hat, and had a mooch around there, and that was kind of it, really.
Ilkley Brewery is a good brewery. We've talked about that before.
I did suggest a couple of times walking through town that we might stop and get a beer somewhere.
Yeah.
But as much as my old man's eyes lit up at the thought of it, my old dear's eyes did not. And as is with many families, she's pretty much in charge. So
whilst it may be your dad's birthday,
he still got some driving to do. So yeah, that kind of put paid to that. But it does look like this. I mean, it does look like it'd be quite a nice little place to visit for a weekend or something. And there's a couple of nice hotels in the centre of town, and it reminds me a bit of Lytham actually, in terms of quite a lot of restaurants and bars springing up. The scenery is obviously much better,
different.
and the air is that much sweeter. What would it been in West Yorkshire?
In
West Yorkshire. But that was it. That's been the up and down of it. And of course, in between those 2 days, the grand final and relaxing and watching that with a couple of beers and a pizza was my way of viewing it. So that's been my week.
Good stuff. You went to a children's party, didn't you, on Saturday afternoon?
I did go to a children's party. So I half expected you to turn up.
Well, I went to see said child on Sunday with present.
Yes.
And then I got showed all his birthday presents and stuff. Yeah.
The children's birthday party was, as you might expect, a room full of 3 and 4 year olds running around screaming. It was heaven on earth. Absolutely terrific. Can't recommend that highly enough. Who's been getting in touch with us this week, Mark?
Well, the first thing I want to say before we talk about who's been getting in touch, let's talk about listener numbers, because last week's show was one of our best ever shows for number of plays or downloads.
Fabulous.
I don't have actual records, which will probably surprise most regular long-term listeners.
Yeah.
I don't actually have accurate records of all our shows and how many plays they've had before we've had to take them down because of our upload limit that we have on our account. But yeah, one of the highest ever, definitely. In my memory, I'd say possibly the 3rd or 4th highest ever.
Superb.
So keep that up.
Yeah,
you new people who are getting on to listening.
Yeah.
Don't be shy, get in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're one of the new people getting on the Super League pod, tell us how long you've been doing it, how you came about us. Get in touch and become involved, because throughout the show, if you're listening for the first time tonight, for instance, throughout the show you're going to hear our listeners getting in touch and putting their views across, and we want you involved, and we want you to say your piece and tell us how you see things going down, not just on the games but in the news, and get about what we say and about what other people say. We really want it to be a forum, so if you're getting on board, welcome.
Part of the SLP family. We'll start with one of the biggest,
in many senses,
towering members of that family.
He's David, a big unit, but he comes with some gravitas as well, doesn't he?
Of course, yeah. David Cantrell. He says, last week we were talking about video referees, obviously, after the semi-finals, unsurprising. He says, trouble with a union style, is there any reason not to award the try system, is that it asks the video ref to spend ages trying to find something instead of what we currently have, where the video ref just checks whatever the on-field ref asks him to check. Our system is better, and I'd like to see it adopted by the RFU and the IRB, actually, is what David says. So this was your sort of suggestion to go with I've got a try, is there any reason for me to not give it?
I take his point completely. I think the problem is that both of them have grey areas that are open to either interpretation or the application of the rules. And in my mind, is there a reason not to award the try? Is an easier thing to look at and come up with a black and white answer for, than having to first of all interpret what the referee on the field has said and then apply the rules as they should be applied, which is, if you're not certain, then you go with what's said on the field. So it feels like what we have has more of a grey area to it than just a blanket, is it a try, is it not, for me. But I take Dave's point in terms of the other side of that coin being that then you get someone really drilling down into it and looking to see for the minutest detail, and perhaps that's where our video refs might fall down, whereas in rugby union I imagine they're more professionalised than ours, in that you suddenly get a guy who's not the most vastly experienced referee in the world trying to drill into a try. So
our video referees are the full-time experienced on-panel referees, though.
But we're bringing up a lot of referees at the minute, and there's a sharpish intake, is what I mean. So at the moment, that's my point. In 4 or 5 years, then it will be a moot point, because they'll have that full-time professional experience, and the new lads that are coming up will be more experienced in doing it. So I think at that point,
I think the biggest problem with the rugby league video referee system is everything that you have in rugby league isn't good enough. Everyone moans about everything.
That's true.
The current system, as long as it's consistently applied, is okay enough for me, because every which way it's going to be problematic. I'm edging towards the previous system where it was the video ref would decide on the footage what they felt was most appropriate, rather than the current way we have it. But that's just because I think there's referees who've been a bit of a renegade and gone against the normal flow of things. Ben Thaler in the semi-final is the main culprit. But interesting stuff anyway, Dave, so thanks for that. Colin Render got in touch. He said, got a good stat question for you regarding the Four Nations. It's basically on the back of people saying that the Aussies are better because they play less games. Would Mark be able to pull up how many games each squad has played this season and maybe last season to see how many more games, if any, England players do play, and to see if this might be a factor?
Over to you, Mark.
Well, to say if this might be a factor, obviously we'll talk about the three squads for the main squads for the Four Nations. I haven't seen Scotland's.
No, I haven't yet. I had a quick look. I haven't seen it yet.
Unless it was announced a while ago and we discussed it a while ago and I've forgotten.
I don't recall now. I think we would have talked about it in more detail, because I would have made some crack about Danny Addy, and we would have talked about Keith Galloway not being in the squad.
Yeah.
And things. Now, I don't think we've heard it yet.
Not seen the full formal squad announced. But anyway, so we've seen the England, Australia and New Zealand squads, and they're the ones that we have to look at this. And basically, over the last 2 seasons combined, the average amount of games played by a member of the Australian squad is 50. The average amount of games played by a member of the New Zealand squad is 45. The average amount of games played by a member of the England squad is 53 over the last 2 seasons. This year, though, Aussies and English players have both averaged 26, while as Kiwis have averaged 22. But over the last 2-year period, no Australian or New Zealander has played more than 59 times. Right? In that spell. Cameron Smith played 59 times. For England, 9 have played 60 games or more in the squad. So there's a lot more games played by these English players. Chris Hill basically missed 1 game in the last 2 seasons across every game he could possibly have played at the top grade level. He's played 73 games. I think he missed 1 regular season Super League game last year. Hasn't missed a game this year. Played in every Challenge Cup game this year. Last year, Warrington didn't make the final, but he played in all 3 of the games they did play, and played in a World Club Series game too. He's played a lot of rugby league.
That boy.
It's a good job we've got so many props in the squad to mean that he doesn't have to do long minutes necessarily here. But it's been so consistent and outstanding in that time. But anyway, basically, we don't know if it's going to be a factor, I suppose, because England last year played on average 28 games in the players in the squad had done after the end of the Four Nations, whereas the Kiwi team after the end of the international games last year, England had played 28 games apiece on average. New Zealand players had played 23 games apiece on average.
So,
and we won that.
So,
but generally
we won that asterisk though, didn't we? Because there were some key players missing for New Zealand out of that, which might have impacted the overall result of the series.
So there you go, though. So it'll yet to be seen, but we do play a lot more games, yes.
We do, and that's the biggest issue for me. It's obvious from our
structure, but it's on there in paper as well.
Yeah, there you go.
When you take into account the amount of NRL players, the amount of injuries and stuff. I mean, Johnny Lomax has only played, say, 30 games in the last 2 years. Or less than that.
That's a high estimate, I would say.
It's about that. Whereas that's low, and then that still has, and our average is still above.
Yes,
the other countries.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Carl. Mark always likes to get his teeth into these statistical questions, don't you?
I've got some graphics I can put together later. I only just finished looking at the England squad this afternoon, obviously, because the squad was only announced today. Alfie Garner at Alfie Wolf got in touch. He said, "Warning. 2 hours, 16 minutes, 24 seconds. Stop clearing your chuffing throat down the microphone. I'm trying to eat breakfast, Tom."
2 things on this.
Gagging face.
2 things on this. First of all, it suggests a great deal about the quality of our podcast that you think we use microphones, Darren. And secondly, I don't recall doing that. I've not even listened. Did you listen back?
Yeah, I listened back. It was disgusting.
What did I do?
The thing that you often do to clear yourself out when we've finished a segment.
Did that remain in?
No, because you did it in the middle of me talking. It was one of those back end of the show. We're too tired to realise what we're doing.
We're just delirious. We're just delirious. I apologise wholeheartedly to everybody. I just took umbrage at the assertion. But no, fair enough. I'll do my utmost not to clear my throat.
Dr. Bob Phillips, he got in touch. He said, "Don't we deserve another Ask SLP before the off season?"
It's got to be a Christmas thing now, hasn't it? Ask SLP.
Yeah,
Christmas special, I'd say.
That's where we'd be, I think.
Yeah.
In the middle of the off season, we'll